Have you ever wondered why, amidst so many sacred words, so many books, so many books, so many voices proclaiming absolute truths, you still feel empty? Why, even surrounded by temples, prayers, and ceremonies, something inside you remains restless, as if an essential part has been forgotten? Perhaps you have been taught to seek answers outside yourself. Perhaps you have believed that salvation would come from elsewhere, from another person, from another time. But what if I told you that what you seek has never been far away? What if the greatest secret was not about what was said, but about what was silenced? Not in buildings of wood and stone, split a piece of wood and I am there, lift a stone, and you will find me. These words were not poetic for beauty alone. They were instructions, they were maps. They said, stop seeking the sacred in sacred places built by human hands. The real temple is your body. The real altar is your heart. The real priest is your own awakened consciousness. But that was too radical, too dangerous. If each person could access the divine directly, without needing sacraments administered by ecclesiastical authorities, without needing confessions made to intermediaries, without needing rituals controlled by a hierarchy, what would the role of these institutions be? And so, the gospel was declared heretical, not because it was false, but because it was too liberating. Do you feel it now? A kind of recognition, as if something ancient within you is awakening from a deep sleep. Don't suppress that feeling. Let it grow. It is your original truth beginning to remember itself. For 2 millennia, entire generations grew up believing that they were born in sin, that they were fundamentally flawed, that they needed external salvation. Children were taught to fear their own nature, to distrust their impulses, to see the body as a prison of the soul. But the hidden gospel said the opposite. You are light temporarily forgotten of itself. You don't need to be saved. You need to be saved. You need to be remembered. You need to awaken. And awakening is not a single, dramatic event for most. It is like dawn, gradual. First there is total darkness. Then a slight lightening on the horizon. The stars begin to disappear. The birds sing even before you see the sun. And then, gently, the light spreads, and the world reveals itself. Not new, but seen anew, seen truly for the first time. The hidden text spoke in parables, as all deep truths must speak, because truth cannot be transmitted directly as information. It must be discovered, experienced, lived. One of the parables said, if those who guide you say, see, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say, it is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. But the kingdom is within you and outside of you. When you know yourselves, you will be known, and you will know that you are children of the living Father. To know yourself, not as a collection of memories, not as a social role you play, not as this mental narrative that tells your personal story, but to know yourself as pure consciousness, as presence, as the space in which all experiences happen. When you know yourself like this, something fundamental changes. You realize that you are not separate from anything. Separation was an illusion created by excessive identification with form, with the ego, with the limited. Breathe again. Place your hand on your chest. Feel the warmth of your palm through your clothes. Feel the heart beating underneath. That heart beat before you had a name, before you had a story, before you had beliefs, and it will continue beating now, while you question everything you thought you knew. It doesn't need your permission or your understanding to function. It simply is, just like you, in your deepest essence, simply are. The early church split. On one side, those who believed that the original message was about inner transformation, about awakening of consciousness, about recognizing the inherent divinity in each being. On the other, those who wanted structure, hierarchy, control, who wanted a state religion, a faith that could be used to unite empires and control masses. Guess which side won? Not because it had more truth, but because it had more political power. And then the suppression began. Texts were burned. Entire communities that practiced this inner spirituality were persecuted. They were called heretics, Gnostics, dangerous. And perhaps they were dangerous, but not to ordinary people. They were dangerous to those whose power depended on keeping people dependent, fearful, seeking externally what could only be found internally. But truth has a peculiar quality. It cannot be totally destroyed. It can be buried, but not annihilated. It can be forgotten, but not erased. It remains like a dormant seed in frozen ground, waiting for spring. And when the conditions are right, when the soil of collective consciousness is ready, it sprouts again. You are reading this because spring has arrived, not just for you, but for humanity. We are in a time of collective awakening, where millions simultaneously feel that something is not right with the old narratives, that the answers given by institutions no longer resonate with inner truth, that there is something deeper, more real, more liberating waiting to be discovered. The hidden gospel was not just a text, it was a practice, a path. It taught that true knowledge, gnosis, doesn't come from believing in doctrines, but from direct experience. And this experience was cultivated through stillness, contemplation, and what we might call today meditation, sitting in silence, observing the mind, letting thoughts pass like clouds, and in the space between thoughts, in the deep silence that always exists, discovering what you really are. Try it now. Sit comfortably, straighten your spine, but not rigidly. Let your shoulders relax. Place your hands on your thighs, palms up or down, as you prefer. Close your eyes again, and simply observe. Don't try to stop the thoughts, just watch them appear and disappear, as if you were the sky, and the thoughts were birds flying through you. The sky doesn't cling to the birds. It doesn't reject them. It simply allows them. In this space of observation, something interesting happens. You realize that there is a distance between you and your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. How could you be? You are observing them. The observer cannot be the observed. And in that simply but profound realization, there is liberation. Because if you are not your thoughts, you are not your worries, you are not your stories, then what are you? You are what remains when everything else is taken away. Pure consciousness, conscious presence. The unqualified I am. This was the secret. This was the gospel that was hidden. Not because it told different stories about historical figures, but because it revealed that each person has direct access to the divine. That you don't need an intermediary, that the path is within you. The walls of the churches were built with stones and power, but also with a promise: if you follow our rules, if you believe in our doctrines, if you depend on our sacraments, you will be saved. But saved from what? From your own forgotten divine nature, from your own inner power, from your own direct connection with the source of all that is. The hidden gospel whispered, you are already saved, you have just forgotten. And the act of remembering requires no external sacrifice, requires no endless suffering, requires no guilt and shame. It requires no guilt and shame. It requires courage to look within. It requires a willingness to let go of everything you have been taught, to believe about yourself and discover the truth through direct experience. Feel your body now, really feel it. The pressure where you are sitting, the temperature of the air on your skin, the weight of your arms, the feeling of life pulsing through every cell. This body is not a prison. It is a temple. It is a temple. It is the vehicle through which infinite consciousness experiences finitude. It is sacred not by external decree, but by essential nature. There were teachings in the hidden gospel about duality and unity, about how we live in a world of apparent opposites, light and darkness, good and evil, life and death, but that behind these dualities there is a fundamental unity. Not a unity that negates the differences, but one that transcends them while including them. Like the waves in the ocean, each one seems separate, individual, but all are expressions of the same body of water. You are a wave in the ocean of consciousness, temporarily individualized, yes, being a unique experience, yes, but never separate from the totality. And when you realize this, realize it, not just intellectually but viscerally, the fear of death disappears. Because you understand that what you fundamentally are cannot die, forms change, bodies age, personalities dissolve, but the consciousness that you are, the presence that observes all this, is eternal. This sounded blasphemous to Orthodox ears. It sounded as if it were placing the human in the place of the divine, but it was exactly the opposite. It was recognizing that the division between human and divine was artificial, that there is only one reality, one consciousness, one life, expressing itself through infinite forms. You are not separate from God. You are an expression of God. Yours, as does the wave is an expression of the ocean. Breathe thee, inhale this truth. Exhale any resistance. Inhale unity. Exhale separation. With each breath, you are exchanging molecules with the entire universe. The oxygen you inhale has been exhaled by trees, by oceans, by other beings. What you exhale feeds plants, that feed animals, that feed other people. You are a temporary knot in an infinite network of interbeing, always have been, always will be. The gospel also spoke about suffering, but did not glorify suffering as a path to salvation. Instead, it explained that suffering arises from ignorance about who you really are. When you identify exclusively with the body, you suffer because the body is vulnerable. When you identify exclusively with the mind, you suffer because the mind is a whirlwind of contradictions. But when you rest in the consciousness that observes both body and mind, block 4 of 5, where there is mind, there is peace. Not the peace of absence of challenges, but the peace of an immutable center, amidst all changes. Imagine a deep lake. On the surface, there are waves when the wind blows. There is movement, agitation. But down below, in the depths, there is stillness. Always. The wind doesn't reach the depths. You have been living on the surface, identified with the waves, thinking that you are the waves, but you are the entire lake. You are the waves and the depths. And when you learn to rest in the depths, the waves don't disappear, but they stop disturbing you. This was the practice taught by the hidden gospel, not to deny life, not to flee the world, but to find the still center within you, and from that center to live fully, not as a victim of circumstances, but as a conscious presence dancing with life. Why was this hidden? Because people centered in themselves, conscious of their own inner power, are not easily controlled. They don't need external authorities to tell them what is right or wrong. They don't need fear of hell or promise of heaven to behave ethically. They act from connection, from understanding, from love that flows naturally when you realize that everything is connected. You are not reading a heresy. You are remembering. And remembering is not a sin. It is awakening. It is returning home after a long journey in foreign lands. And home has always been here, inside you, waiting. Place your hand on your heart again. Feel it beating. Say silently or aloud if you are alone, I am. Do not add anything after. Just, I am. Feel the weight of these two words. The truth contained in me. You exist. You are. This is undeniable. You can doubt many things, but you cannot doubt that you exist, that there is consciousness here, now, reading these words, experiencing this moment. This I am is the most ancient name of the divine. It is what was said in the burning bush. It is the fundamental truth before any story, any doctrine, any belief, and it is available to you now, not in a distant temple, not through a complex ritual, here, now, in the simple recognition of your own conscious existence. The hidden gospel contained dialogues, conversations about the nature of reality. One of the most profound was about light. If you bring forth what is within you, it said, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. This was not a threat, it was a description of a natural process. You have unique gifts, unique perceptions, unique love to offer the world. If you repress them, if you deny them, they become shadow, weight, disease. But if you express them, they become light that illuminates not only you, but everyone around you. Have you been living in fear of shining? In fear of fully being who you are? Perhaps you have learned that humility means making yourself small. But true humility is recognizing that you are a channel, not a source. The light that shines through you is not yours in a possessive sense. It is the universal light expressing itself through your unique form. When you understand this, there is no arrogance in shining brightly. There is only gratitude. Breath, the gratitude now. Inhale appreciation for your life, for your consciousness, for the opportunity to experience this moment. Exhale any shame, any guilt, any belief that you are not worthy. You are worthy not because you have done something to deserve it, but simply because you exist. Your existence is proof of your worthiness. The texts were found in 1945, clay shards in caves in Egypt. Inside them, papyrus codices, and inside the codices, words that waited patiently for 17 centuries to be read again. Words that some monks, long ago, hid carefully, knowing that orthodoxy would destroy them. They preserved what they knew to be true, trusting that one day, in a future time, humanity would be ready. And here we are. You are reading, you are feeling. Something in you recognizes this as truth. Not because I am saying it, but because it resonates with something you always knew, but forgot. Like a song you sang before you learned words. The spiritual journey described in the hidden gospel was not linear. It wasn't, do this, then that, and then you will achieve enlightenment. It was more organic, more like gardening than construction. You prepare the soil of your consciousness. You plant seeds of attention, of presence. You water with consistent practice. And then you wait, you trust, you allow, and in the right time, not in your time but in the time of life, something blossoms. You are blossoming now. Maybe you don't see it yet. Maybe it seems like nothing is changing. But every moment of awareness, every intentional breath, every time you stop and realize, I am here, I am aware, something deep transforms. Slowly, invisibly to the eye, but real. Let your eyes close once more, and this time go deeper, observing not just the thoughts, but the space between them. Not just the breath, but the pause between inhale and exhale. Not just the sensations, but the awareness that registers all sensations. Descend below the surface of your experience. Dive into the depth. Here in this quiet place, you are not defined by history. You are not limited by past or future. You are not contained by body or mind. You simply are vast, infinite, whole, complete, as you always were, as you always will be. This is the gospel, the good news. Not that you will be saved if you believe the right thing, but that you already are what you seek. You already are the light you search for in the darkness. You already are the peace you crave in the midst of chaos. You already are the love you miss in the world. Did the church hide this? Yes, out of fear, out of power, out of ignorance. But truth does not belong to institutions. It belongs to you. It belongs to you. It always has. And now, in this moment, you are reclaiming it, not with anger at those who hid it. Anger only creates more separation, but with gratitude, gratitude that despite everything, that truth found its way to you. And now that you know, what will you do? Will you return to the old patterns, to external beliefs, to the search outside yourself? Or will you remain in this place of recognition, even when it's difficult, even when the world tells you you're wrong, even when your own mind doubts? The practice is simple, but not easy. Return to the center, repeatedly, as many times as necessary, 1,000 times a day if needed. Every time you find yourself lost in thoughts, worries, stories, return to the breath, return to the body, return to the simple awareness of being alive, here, now. Inhale. This moment is all that exists. Exhale. This moment is enough. Inhale. Inhale. You are presence. Exhale. You are peace. Inhale. Gratitude. Exhale love, not as concepts, but as lived experience, as reality felt in every cell. The hidden gospel ends not with promises of a future paradise, but with an invitation to present awakening, not with threats of punishment, but with reminders of unity. You are not separate, you never have been. Separation was a dream, an illusion, a forgetting. And now you are waking up. Open your eyes, look around, see the world with new eyes. Every person you meet is an expression of the same consciousness that you are, wearing a different face, telling a different story, but fundamentally the same. When you hurt another, you hurt yourself. When you love another, you love yourself. There is no another. There is only the one, experiencing itself through many. You carry now a sacred responsibility, not to preach, not to convert, not to prove anything to anyone, but to live from this truth, to be the light that you are, to express the love that you have recognized as your essential nature. And in doing so, quietly, without fanfare, you become a beacon. Others will see, not your words, but your presence, not your beliefs, but your peace, and something in them will remember too. The hidden gospel no longer needs to be hidden, not because texts have been found and published, that is mere paper and ink, but because you, reader, have awakened to the truth they point to. You have become the living gospel, the good news incarnate. Not perfect and never perfect, but aware, awakening, remembering. May this remembering not end with these words. May it continue with every breath. May it deepen with every breath. May it deepen with every day. May it expand through your life, touching all whom you meet, not because you are trying to teach something, but because you are something. You are awakened consciousness. You are love in action. You are the return of the sacred to the everyday world. If these words found you, it was no accident. It was a calling. It was a calling. It was a recognition. It was life conspiring to bring you back home. Honor that calling, not with heavy duty, but with light joy, with profound gratitude, with love that overflows naturally when you realize who you truly are. Share this if you feel called, not to convince, but to offer, not to debate, but to plant seeds. Some will understand immediately, others may never, and that's okay. Each person awakens in their own time. Your only task is to shine. Let your light guide those who are ready to find their way home. You don't need anything more. You already have everything. You always have. And now you know. Breathe. Smile. It is done. Not as an achievement, but as a recognition. The gospel wasn't hidden in caves. It was hidden in your own awareness, waiting for you to stop, look within, and remember. Welcome back. Welcome home. Welcome to the truth that you always were.